I really almost lost my own challenge on the second day. I made a terrible decision, and it left me with not much room to spare, so to speak. Let me explain. On this day, I loaded up the game and gave myself a few minutes to look through dinosaurs and see what I wanted to pop into the 2-hour enclosure. I chose Torvosaurus G. I figured we haven't had them in a zoo before, and I really liked their biome preferences. So when I went to set up their enclosure, I decided I wanted a few small hills and a look based on real scrublands. Then, when I was looking at the zone, I thought to myself, it's so close to the other enclosure. They're attached even, which presents a whole different issue I'll bring up in a while. So let's make it look like the plants are a little spread out from the other zone, sort of creeping into the drying landscape of this one, with the scrubland on the far side. As I'm going through, I'm setting up these trees and brush and rocks, and did their shelter with a roof access for guests to look down into the enclosure, and then I ran into the ultimate issue of this habitat. I was done. An hour and a half in, and I was done. Not like, oh, just gotta finish this bit and that bit and I'm done, but I straight up was indeed done. I had to find something I disliked about this enclosure to fix so I could meet the time frame. I ended up doing it by looking closely at the enclosure and deciding the back of the enclosure felt too barren and weird. Considering the middle and front felt alive and decent, the back felt like I gave up on it. And in fact, I had. I was so focused on the viewpoint at the front, I neglected to fill in the backdrop to give all those front-facing details more depth than meaning. I also ended up going back in and adding some of the final details that I had actually forgotten. So for once, one of my enclosures does actually have all of the things I wanted in it, and then some. It's a good feeling, but also this is a really good learning experience for this time challenge. I've learned that I really should assess my ideas with a bit more scrutiny. If I had thought to myself, hey Ellie, that enclosure sounds like it could be done really quickly, it would have saved myself some of the panic of the last little while of the enclosure, where I was trying to find something to fill out the time. I didn't want to redo something I was happy with, although I am happy that my assessment when finished everything pointed out that I had missed something that would have made the habitat more boring. I think this is why I'm really excited by this challenge. A normal time challenge, you're trying to beat the clock. This one, you're trying to match the clock. Beating a 12-hour timer is easy. Matching a 12-hour timer, as I see, is going to be very difficult. I don't blame anyone if they don't want to take up the same challenge, which, by the way, if you missed day 1 of this challenge, please check it out. This way, if you want to also join in the challenge, you can. I'll leave a link to it in the comments, description, and in the top right corner now. To finish off my rambling of the enclosure, I dropped down some dead trees and some branches and logs around as if the more water-demanding trees and plants had perished from the drought of the right-hand side of the enclosure. And I brought in a lot of drought-hardy bushes to sprinkle in areas where their roots would cling tight to things other than the parched soil like trees, rocks, and logs. I think it adds a bit of realism that my normal habitats seem to be neglecting. I tend to forget underbrush and clinging plants that would embed themselves into the root systems of others to strangle out competition and allow them easier access to nourishment. I also filled out the inside of the shelter and put some railings on the top of the viewing area wall and the roof of the shelter. I didn't want anyone to fall into the habitat. Speaking of, did you see the guests just walking on into the shelter and looking around? My zoo might get into legal trouble. Send help. Which reminds me, the other issue of the enclosure being attached. The Torvosaurus can see the Lambeosaurs and get locked into an endless loop of threatening displays with them and making them flee. This is not something I want, so I've switched out the fence between the enclosures with a tall, solid fence in hopes that that works to stop them from being able to see each other. I'll report back if I notice any difference. Since I enjoy alternating food preferences for my videos, herbivores in one and carnivores in the next. Either way, that's all I have to say about this enclosure. It was a really simple enclosure and really taught me a lesson about this challenge that I guess I never really thought of in my planning. I'll have to consider more things when I do another challenge, I guess. So with that, leave a like, leave a comment, and take care.